is Blake Angelo from Yamaha here on Synthtopia. And I'd like to kind of talk about our new firmware update for the Montage, Montage firmware 1.2, which adds some pretty cool features, and I'll also talk about the Montage Connect VST and audio unit plugin. So first of all, with 1.2, we added some really cool features. One of them, that's a very cool one, is the ability to configure the super knob to be controlled by a MIDI continuous controller. So before you couldn't do that, now you can. So if you have an external controller and you want to be able to control the movements of the super knob, which is a macro controller, so it controls a lot of parameters. It really goes beyond what a MIDI continuous controller can do, but now you can at least control the super knob with a continuous controller from an external controller, or you can go into a DAW and go into some sort of a graphic editor and draw in super knob movements. So that's a cool addition. Another thing is the ability to create user ARPs from user songs. You can load in a song, take a piece that you want, create a user ARP out of that. So that's another very big, important feature that we added as well to Montage. And you know, some other features, go to downloads.yamaha.com and you can download the firmware if you're a Montage owner and upgrade your Montage, because there's some really cool things that it adds in addition to the ones that I mentioned. The other thing I'll talk about is Montage Connect. So here I have a Cubase up here and it's just a blank project. And I'll kind of show you a couple of ways that you can use the workflow. It really enhances the workflow of the hardware to the computer, because as you know, or maybe you don't know, the Montage is not only a MIDI interface, it's also a very robust audio interface. I can send 32 channels to the computer at 44.1 24-bit. If I go up to 192, I still get 8 stereo channels that I can configure to the computer. But I'm working right here in 44.1, and I'm just connected to the computer, and I have all of this audio connectivity. And one of the things that Montage does is it sort of breaks the paradigm of single part, single MIDI channel type of working, like you did with Motif, for example. Because Montage uses so many single instrument, multi-part performances that use more than a single part, it kind of goes beyond that. So you have to have better ways to work and different ways of thinking to do it. And having the robust audio interface allows me to instantly render tracks, and I'll show a little bit about that too. First thing I'll show you is just a very simple thing where I'm inside my Montage here, and I have this inauguration performance set up here, and I love this one. It's nice, you know, very swell woodwind string brass performance. I've already recorded something using that exact performance. Another thing, by the way, we added to Montage 1.2 is the ability to register the song and the performance together. So when I call up the song that I created and I store the song and performance data, it brings it up so the performance is exactly what I recorded. So I'll play this back that I recorded into Montage in its performance recorder, and it sounds like this. So let's say I started with that and I wanted to kind of continue with that. So what I want to do now is go to my DAW, and I'm going to take what I've done here and move it over to the computer. Now before, I would have to save that as a MIDI file and take it over and do it this way. With the Montage Connect app, it's really cool how it works. I go inside my browser here and I'm going to go and start an instrument track. I'll add this instrument track, and when I pull this up, I can see inside of the track itself that I have a bunch of VST instruments that are virtual instruments, but I also have the Montage Connect component, the plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and I'll add this, and there it is. It sees my Montage. Now what I need to do, there's two things I need to do. First of all, I need to capture the performance I just used to create the song in Montage. So I have this little icon that says recall. So I just select this. It says from the keyboard to the computer. I hit that once, it looks at the Montage, it brings the performance up, and there it is. Now I have that performance. Now what I want to do here is save that performance inside of the Cubase sound browser, part of the media bay. The way that Cubase kind of handles all the media is by this really cool thing called media bay, where you can tag things, and I'll do that right now. I'll go over here and I'll say I want to save that as a preset, and it has the familiar interface, and I can name it down here. I can set the category that I want it to be. If it was, you know, musical effects or keyboard or whatever, character, I can rate it. If I say, oh, that's a big 5-star on that one, something on you, and then I just simply save that inside my browser. And I've already done that in here, so I have it selected here. Now the song I want to import, so I have this set here. I'm going to go to song import, and it looks, the plugin looks at the Montage and sees whatever I have in here. I have a blank song here that I created earlier. Intro 1 is the one I just made. That's the inauguration one. And then I made one with a guitar sound too. So intro 1 is the one we're looking at here. So all I need to do is simply grab this, bring it over and drag and drop it in the timeline, and there it is. It's all sitting right there. I can adjust my tempo down here to however what I want it to be, and when I play it back from the DAW now, you hear this. That's not the Montage recorder anymore. That's the DAW. That's a cool, powerful thing that really enhances starting here and then continuing on in the DAW as we've kind of always talked about. Robust connection to the computer. Now, that's one thing that you can do with Montage Connect. Another thing that you can do is, I'll just kind of take you really briefly through a workflow process. I'm actually creating a doc right now that outlines this using this new software and the new firmware version. So this is just an example of something that I already did. Now, how this worked, here's how I worked with this. I started out, I have my Montage Connect plugin down here. And my current workflow was I wanted to create the structural tracks, the bass, the guitar, the maybe a sketch piano drum track, and so on. So I created a performance that I saved inside of Montage Connect. So let's say I want to go back and edit that. I can go in and load in that exact preset. It brings up the Cubase sound browser here, and it's called Rhythm Section 2. Immediately, my performance changes in front of me, and I have that rhythm section. And here I have drums, bass guitar, electric guitar, and then I have just a single part piano that I used for the rehearsal part because I'm going to replace that with a big 4-part piano later on. So I recorded those tracks first. And when I get them how I want them, here's the MIDI data. Now you notice all of this is muted because when I was done with that, I put them up and I rendered them as audio. So down here I have the audio tracks already done. And you see my bass and guitar tracks, I rendered those in real time, all this simultaneously. Those are 2 stereo tracks, because remember, we have 32 channels we can work with. So bass, guitar, those are already rendered. I have these other 2 multi-part, and I'll talk about that in a second, but down here is the drum track. Now this is a cool thing about Montage. Inside a single drum part, I can go into the drum part itself and route individual drums to different audio outputs. So I have the bass, the kick drum right here. That's set on 1 mono channel. I have another one. High tom, high mid tom, low mid, hi-hats, cymbals, everything. 14 individual tracks out of a single part. All of those, I rendered those all simultaneously. So when I have those done, now what's the benefit of that? The benefit is that I can now mix each of the individual drum components and get a really solid mix, just like you would if you were really recording drums. So I can have a bone dry kick drum, I can have a nice wet snare drum, and so on, and I have it all rendered right here. So once I'm done with that, I put them into this MIDI track folder up here, and I just mute those tracks, done. Now it's time for me to add the piano track. So what do? I go back here to the Montage Connect app, and I go into my sound browser where I've already captured that performance, and I can load that preset back in. And in here you'll see CFX Concert. Montage immediately says, oh, I'm changing. So now I have this multi-part performance. When I want to record these, to me the best way to record a performance like this is to go into Montage and set it from multi-mode to single mode. It takes these 4 parts that in the multi-mode are on 4 separate MIDI channels, and it puts them on 1 channel so I can record everything on 1 MIDI track and a stereo audio channel when I'm done. And so that's what I did. I recorded the MIDI data, and you can see that data right here. There's the CFX recording right here. All the MIDI data is right there. I render that part, put it into the MIDI track folder, and done. And then I added a string section swell later on. So what does this all sound like now? Well, I'll just play this back for you so you can hear what my rendered tracks sound like. Plus, I can always mute out my track. So you get the idea. So the idea here is, I start out in multi-mode, I record my structural tracks first, I get them how I want in the MIDI domain, I render those, put them in a MIDI folder and mute it out, then I open up Montage Connect, recall the piano performance, set it in a single mode, so I'm recording a single MIDI track, stereo track, render that, then I added some string sections later on that are another multi-part performances. Do the same thing, open up Montage Connect, recall that performance, and done. It's a really elegant, nicely thought through workflow that I think will really enhance how you interact with Montage and the computer. Now, I am using Cubase here, and we have a kind of a big relationship with Steinberg Yamaha, but we also created an audio unit for this exact process. So if you use Logic or something else that uses audio units, you can use it with those DAWs as well. So it's a much broader plugin than just having VST3, but it's both VST3 and audio unit compatible. So that's a brief kind of introduction to Montage OS 1.2 and Montage Connect. Hey, thanks for supporting Synthtopia, the coolest website on the planet for synthesizers. I'm Blake Angelos for Yamaha. Thank you so much for watching.